If you're studying for the INBDE, I highly recommend INBDE Bootcamp, an all-in-one study resource that will help you pass your exam. Use coupon code MENTALDENTAL for 10% off. Hey everyone, Dr. Ryan here, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me here on YouTube. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to deal with test anxiety, a very real thing that a lot of test takers experience. Now, a little bit of stress can actually help you focus and perform better on an exam, but too much stress can interfere with both your concentration and your confidence. So with that, I want to share 3 tips with you to help reduce test anxiety. So tip number 1 is don't pay attention to what other people are doing. And this goes for both your preparation beforehand and the test day itself. So let me tell you a quick story. Many years ago, I was preparing for the INBDE Part 1, back when the exam actually had 2 parts. And I studied hard, I locked myself in my room, I turned off all the distractions, and spent many weeks preparing for this thing. And by the end of that season, I felt pretty good. I felt confident that I knew what I needed to know. But I remember showing up to that Prometric test center, and I had a little study guide printed out that I was reviewing right before going in to take the test, just going through my process. And there were 2 dental students who I never met before. They were from a different dental school, and they were sitting across from me in the waiting room, also waiting to take the INBDE Part 1. And they had this big box of dental decks. I didn't use those to study, but I knew what the dental decks were. And they were using those flashcards to quiz each other before going in for the exam. And they were talking about some obscure species of fungi and these other extremely niche microbiology facts. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have no idea what they're talking about. I never studied that. And so last minute, I started to go into panic mode. I ripped my phone out. I started furiously typing Ogatei polymorpha or whatever rare fungus they were talking about. And then I realized something. No, just stick to my process. I learned all the high yield facts. You know, that's what I'm about on my channel. And that's how I was when I studied for the exam myself. And so I knew I did the work. So forget about what they're doing. Just focus on myself. So I went back to my study guide. I got called in to take the exam and followed through. And lo and behold, that fungus did not show up on the exam. In fact, nothing they were talking about appeared on the exam at all. And it was a complete waste of time and energy for me to worry about that. I sacrificed my peace in that moment because I thought I was missing out on something that I needed to know. And so the reason I share that story with you is to emphasize why it's so important to not pay attention to what other people are doing. Whether it's in a study group where people are talking about things you've never heard of before and making you anxious, or perhaps it's during the test itself where people are writing or typing furiously beside you and making you anxious. So focus only on what you are doing. Like me in that waiting room, stick to your process. You don't have to isolate yourself from the helpful resources and the helpful people around you, but you do have to insulate yourself from everything that you may be tempted to compare yourself with that will ultimately rob you of your peace. Tip number 2 is to focus on calm breathing. And I know this sounds like no big deal because we're breathing all the time, but we can also regulate how we breathe because the main respiratory muscles are under both involuntary and voluntary control. And the 4-7-8 breathing technique is what I use for stress relief, and it basically involves breathing in for 4 seconds, holding the breath for 7 seconds, and then exhaling for 8 seconds. So I know it's a little bit silly, but let's try it right now together. And I'm going to time this on my phone and use my fingers to represent the second. So here we go. We're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold that breath for 7 seconds. And then breathe out for 8 seconds. Okay, and then after that, we would just repeat that process for a few minutes, or at least a few breaths, but usually a few minutes. And the key there is getting a nice, slow, deep, full breath. And a lot of people, myself included, find that it really helps to manage your anxiety. And this breathing pattern physiologically slows both your respiratory rate and your heart rate and aims to reduce anxiety. It can also help you get to sleep if you struggle with that. So that breathing technique can really come in handy either right before an exam or right before you go to sleep. And tip number 3 is to read carefully and slowly. Read the directions of the test thoroughly. Read each question methodically. Go through every patient box, every image, every radiograph. Read all the answer choices before making a selection. There's nothing worse than getting a question wrong that you knew the answer to, but it had the word "except" in the question stem. And you missed that word because you were trying to go so fast, and then you got the question wrong, even though you knew the answer. So slowing down can help you stay focused and stay in the present moment and avoid silly mistakes. If you're new to the channel, or in case you don't know this yet, I have a whole playlist dedicated to coaching videos like this one, filled with advice and tips from me, having been through the journey myself, the one that you're currently walking. And while we each have a unique path to walk, hopefully some of the things that I've experienced and learned along the way can help you as well. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I loved doing it from Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you did like it, I would really appreciate if you clicked that like button below and you subscribe to my channel, Mental Dental. If you aren't already, all of those things can really help me to grow this platform and continue to share more information regarding dentistry and all sorts of things right here on YouTube. Guys, thank you again for watching. Make sure you prioritize reducing anxiety, whether that's with test taking or other aspects of life, however you can. I'm here to help you. I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.